Have you ever felt the chill of an ancient dread, a whisper from the forgotten corners of the world? In the year 1883, a man named Elias Mercer, a botanist by trade, ventured into the highlands of West Virginia. He sought rare alpine moss and elusive mountain herbs, but what he unearthed was far more sinister than any root or bloom. It was a secret, ancient and hungry, cloaked in the guise of a gentleman. Elias's journey began in a valley swallowed by time, a place where the very air felt heavy with unspoken histories. No rail lines dared penetrate this forgotten realm. No roads scarred its primal beauty. Only crumbling cabins, long abandoned, stood as silent sentinels amidst trees so dense they seemed to devour the sky, casting perpetual twilight upon the forest floor. The silence here was not peaceful. It was a suffocating blanket, broken only by the rustle of unseen things. It was in this desolate expanse that he encountered him, a man of impossible stature, refined and impeccably dressed, yet strangely ageless. His velvet coat seemed to absorb the scant light, and his hands, bone pale, held an unsettling stillness. A silver ring, adorned with a black opal, shimmered with an unnatural luminescence, even in the deepest shade. The stranger introduced himself as Mr. Ashcroft, his voice a silken murmur that seemed to glide through the oppressive quiet. Ashcroft extended an invitation, offering Elias shelter in his manor, a decaying estate nestled deep within the gnarled pines. Weary from days of arduous hiking, Elias accepted, a decision that would forever haunt his waking thoughts. The house itself was a paradox. It exuded a strange warmth, yet no fire crackled in its hearths. Books lined every shelf, their spines uncracked, their pages undisturbed, as if knowledge itself feared to awaken within those walls. Every mirror, without exception, had been turned to face the wall, reflecting only the dust-laden plaster. Ashcroft, despite the unsettling peculiarities of his abode, remained impeccably polite, his soft-spoken demeanor a chilling contrast to the manor's oppressive atmosphere. He displayed an unnerving curiosity about Elias's botanical work, particularly drawn to the blood-rich plants used in ancient medicines. Their dinners were candle-lit affairs, casting dancing shadows that seemed to writhe on the walls. Ashcroft, however, ate nothing, merely sipping from a glass filled with a liquid as dark as ink. He claimed it was wine, but its metallic scent, sharp and coppery, spoke of something far more primal. That night, Elias found himself in a room with windows barred, a subtle detail that pricked at his subconscious. Sleep came thin and twitching, a fragile veil against the encroaching dread. The house was utterly devoid of sound. No scurrying mice, no sighing wind, not even the familiar creak of old wood settling. Only a slow, distant sound. A rhythmic intake of breath seemed to permeate the chilling stillness. It was a sound that persisted, even when Elias himself held his own breath, listening, his heart a frantic drum against his ribs. By the third day, the subtle unease began to curdle into outright dread. Ashcroft's questions grew increasingly intrusive, probing into Elias's blood type, his sleeping habits, even his spiritual beliefs. "Do you pray, Mr. Mercer?" he had asked, his eyes dark and fathomless, seeming to pierce through Elias's very soul. Then came the incident with the thorny plant. Elias, reaching for a specimen, pricked his hand, a bead of crimson welling on his skin. Ashcroft flinched, a sudden, almost imperceptible movement. It wasn't disgust that contorted his features, but something far more predatory, a flicker of raw hunger, quickly masked. He licked his lips, excusing himself with a strained politeness, as if embarrassed by his own primal reaction. It was then that a cold certainty settled in Elias's gut. This man wasn't merely curious, he was waiting. The next morning, a desperate plan began to form in Elias's mind. He brewed a potent tea from wild garlic root, a plant known in folklore to repel insects and cleanse the blood. He offered Ashcroft a steaming cup, his gaze unwavering. The man declined, a thin smile playing on his lips. "Too bitter for my taste, Mr. Mercer," he purred, but his lip curled, a subtle twitch, a flicker of revulsion. It was the reaction of someone who had just smelled poison. A forgotten memory surfaced from Elias's childhood. A dusty myth book, filled with tales of creatures of the night. Vampires, it had said, abhor garlic. Back then, They were just stories. Now they walked and spoke and stared too long. He pressed his desperate tests. At dinner, Elias served salted meat, pork soaked in brine, a traditional ward against evil in many old tales. Ashcroft refused again, his voice a low whisper. "Salt is harsh on the palate," he murmured, his eyes darting away from the glistening meat. And when Elias deliberately held out a silver spoon, its polished surface catching the candlelight, Ashcroft recoiled, his hand hovering, unable to touch the metal. The ancient lore, dismissed as superstition, was proving terrifyingly true. That night, a primal fear overriding all caution, Elias crept from his room. The manor was a labyrinth of shadows and chilling silence. He found no servants, no animals, only locked doors, each one a silent testament to the manor's secrets. Then he discovered it. One study, inexplicably left ajar. Inside, a map of the region lay spread across a heavy desk. Dozens of names were scratched off, entire villages, settler communities, gone, erased. Beside the map, a drawer lay slightly ajar. Within, hundreds of letters, meticulously organized. All from Elias's kind, scientists, travelers, explorers. Men who had vanished without a trace. Each letter ended with the same chillingly polite phrase, "Thank you for your hospitality. I will stay another night." It was then that Elias noticed the ring again, the black opal. He had seen it shimmer even in full daylight, a detail that had seemed innocuous at first. A daylight ring. The thing wearing Ashcroft's skin wasn't merely a vampire, it was an ancient one, a predator that had survived centuries, perfecting the hunt, now cloaked in silk and manners, a disguise more terrifying than any fangs. Elias fled. He bolted into the oppressive woods, his heart a frantic drum against his ribs, a primal scream trapped in his throat. Snow fell thick as ash, clinging to his clothes, blurring the path. Branches, like skeletal fingers, tore at his coat, but he barely registered the pain. Behind him, there were no footsteps, no crunch of snow. Only the sound of a voice, impossibly close, drifting on the wind like smoke, a chilling caress against his ear. "Come back, Elias. The night is so hungry." He reached the river by dawn, drenched, bleeding, the icy current threatening to swallow him whole. But he made it to town, a ghost of his former self. He told no one what had truly happened. They would have called him mad, a victim of mountain fever. He only ever offered a cryptic warning to travelers, his voice low and haunted. If a stranger in the mountains offers you kindness too easily, look at his plate. Look for his reflection. Offer him garlic. And above all, watch his ring. Elias Mercer never returned to those haunted pines. But sometimes, on moonless nights, he still dreams. Dreams of velvet hands pressing down on his chest, of lips brushing his throat, of a voice whispering, "You never really left." Because some men feed on bread and wine, but others feed on memory, on warmth, on trust. And by the time you realize what they are, it's already too late. Did Elias's chilling encounter send shivers down your spine? Do you have your own unsettling tales of folklore, mystery, or unexplained horrors? Subscribe to our channel for more spine-tingling audio dramas and creepypasta narratives. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next descent into darkness. And share your thoughts in the comments below. What ancient evil do you fear most? Let's unravel the shadows together.